Well, draft season is officially over. And from what I can tell, the Titans, I believe, absolutely crushed this draft. Oh, man. So happy to have just such a great GM in Mike Borgonzi, but I'm getting too far ahead of myself, so let's just get the episode started right now. What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Titans Rundown. I am your host, Micah McCamey, and dude, whew, man, what a weekend for the Tennessee Titans, honestly. Started out hot by us going and signing Tyler Lockett just kind of out of the blue. Like, I genuinely don't know how that happened. And yes, okay, I've heard the jokes, and I do agree with them, at least for Tyler Lockett. Like, I don't agree with them for what they say about DeAndre Hopkins, and I don't agree with people who say that about Calvin Ridley, which are just the troll accounts that are bait. But, you know, but yes, this is Tyler Lockett's retirement home, quite frankly. I think that's quite frankly very obvious in the grand scheme of things. But anywho, this draft was really, really solid, and I'm really excited to get into it. So let's go right on into it, starting out with the themes that I noticed, because, with a first-year GM, you're obviously going to notice some themes that pop up within the draft, like, what type of players does he like? What type of just overall feelings does he have towards specific things? Okay, so in all of this scouting, I've noticed two things that are like positive traits that he really likes, and one thing that's negative that he just doesn't like. Okay, so the two positive things. First off, he really likes players with high ceilings. Like, he doesn't really care like how much development they need. They just have to have a high ceiling. He also really likes people that work really hard at the game. Like, he loves a good work ethic from his players, right? That is probably the biggest takeaway, especially considering the fact that they took players off of their board because they didn't love football enough, which makes me think that some of the fan favorites that we were just begging the Titans to draft, guys like potentially, I'm not going to name anybody, but, you could probably understand who some of these guys are. But like some of the fan favorites that the Titans just really, really wanted us to go get probably got taken off the board because they didn't love football enough. So I really appreciated that. And obviously, I think this is the biggest one of the weekend. He loves good character. Every single one of these guys, just a little bit of research on them, and you'll be able to see that all of these dudes were at least considered leaders in some sort of way at their respective colleges, right? I mean, I'm not going to name anyone specific, but you'll see the pattern throughout this episode. So that's what I noticed, and I'm really excited to talk about this draft class because there are some really, really good finds in here. Okay, starting out with the number one pick in the NFL draft, the least talked about number one pick since Eric Fisher, all the way back in 2014 maybe, but Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami. Okay, this was the obvious choice. It was the best choice. I gave it an A+. He's a great leader, as it's very easily been able to be seen. Like, Mario Cristobal really made strong points for him about his leadership and his just skill, and other people like his old teammates have raved about his leadership. People at other colleges that he did go to, like Carnett or Washington State, have also raved about his leadership. Heck, even Xavier Restrepo, he's raved about his leadership. Which, by the way, I just want to put this out here right now. I posted a video on Monday, which is as I'm recording this, ranking every undrafted free agent and what I thought of them, or at least some of the bigger names that I thought were important to cover, the ones that PFF said, and plus one more from Iowa. But if you want to go watch that, the card will be right up here, okay? Just want y'all to know that. So anyway, going back to Cam Ward. A phenomenal leader. Again, all of his teammates talk about him. He very much commands respect from what's been able to be seen. I mean, Warren Moon liked him enough to the point where he passed his jersey number along to him. He decided, no, I'm not gonna keep this jersey number retired forever. I'm gonna let this kid have it. And that's got to tell you a thing or two about what he thinks of Cam Ward. But he also has a very solid arm. I feel like this is one of the more underrated things about his game. Now, his accuracy down the field, that could definitely be worked on, but I do think that can be fixed. But he has a really good arm. It's not like Bazooka Joe or anything, but it's definitely good enough for the NFL, at least. Again, I know that a lot of people are just like, oh yeah, he's going to try and do that nonchalant stuff behind the Titans O-line, and he's going to get absolutely buried alive, and all of this stuff about how just about just how terrible he is, or about how terrible that's going to be in the NFL or whatever. But what people forget to mention, and what people don't talk about, because he had such a good O-line at Miami, they didn't have to do that as much. But whenever you look at some of the other places that he's been at that haven't had as good of O-lines, you notice something. Cam Ward is really good at improv. Like, whenever the pocket breaks down, he's really good at finding a hole in the O-line to run through and get outside of the pocket, find space, and find his man down the field. And same thing with, he can tuck in and run it as well. He isn't Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray for that matter, but he's kind of like Russell Wilson beyond the line of scrimmage. And I think that those two are pretty similar whenever it comes to their improv. They're really good at moving around the pocket, but they don't really run as much down the field. And whenever they do, they're not as slippery or as fast as they are in the pocket. So I think that's a pretty good comparison for both of them. One of the negatives of Cam Ward, though, is that at times he can be a little reckless. He sometimes just does a little bit too much with said improv, and he'll make a really bad pass across the field or whatever. So, again, I think that's going to take a second to completely beat out of him, which is why I think he gets off to a slow start in 2025. But I do think that it will get better as the season goes on. And I think that he'll start he'll start cutting down those turnover numbers each week more and more, to the point where, you think, man, this guy was a turnover machine at one point. I genuinely believe that. But anywho, his floor and his ceiling for me, I have one of these for everybody. I think that his floor is a little bit better of a Levis. Completely reckless. Doesn't really take pressure well. Sometimes he has the ability to improv, but sometimes just does a little bit too much in the pocket, and his footwork isn't there, and a lot of other things that are factored in. But the only reason that he's a little bit better is that whenever he does have time and whenever he does get through the pocket, he can at least read a defense, unlike Levis, who just couldn't do that at all. So that's why I have him as a little bit of better Levis as my floor. But as my ceiling, I have him as the modern McNair. And what I mean by that is, here's the thing. If you look back at Steve McNair stats, you think this guy was good. No offense to him, obviously quarterback stats have completely just railed up as time has gone on. But you look back at his stats and you question, was he actually just really overrated? But the truth is that he played in an era where quarterbacks weren't asked to pass as much. They weren't asked to push it down the field as much. And them being mobile was highly discouraged, right? But my thing is that I think that if Steve McNair would have been in a Harbaugh or a Andy Reid or somebody like that, if he would have been in a modern NFL offense, I believe that he puts up some of those ridiculous stats that you may see from the guys like the Allens or the or the Lamars. I think that he puts up those really, really good stats. So that's why I say a modern McNair, because if I said McNair at the time, then I feel like that wouldn't be giving him enough credit for how high I think his ceiling is. overall, I give the draft pick an A plus because I think he's going to be really good. And even if I didn't think he was going to be good, I would still give it like a B plus or an A minus because at the top of the draft, whenever you have that number one pick, you have to take a shot at a quarterback no matter what. At least that's my opinion. Unless it's like one of those really bad quarterback draft classes. I mean, really bad, like not even this bad, which, obviously it wasn't great. But like, I'm talking like a 2022, I believe, draft class where it was like Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett were the headliners of that draft. Or another draft where it was like... oh man, I can't remember who it was exactly. Kyler Murray and a bunch of other crappy dudes. That's a perfect example of this. Kyler Murray, really good quarterback, Heisman winner. Cam Ward was a Heisman candidate. He just was just short of the Heisman because, well, he had to go up against two just generational seasons. A running back that ran for 2,000 yards and a receiver and a cornerback. Same person. But he was very obviously the best quarterback in the draft, but people questioned a couple of things about him. And then he ended up playing, and they just didn't have any other questions because he ended up being pretty good. So that's why I see as the comparison for the draft class. So yeah, A plus. I think that this was obviously the best pick. It wasn't my favorite pick though, but we'll get to that later. Okay. Second pick, Oluwafemi Oladejo. Okay. I worked really hard to try and get that name pronounced right. I really hope that I did get it right. But from this point on, I will just call him Moses because that's what all of his teachers called him that had no clue how to pronounce it. So here's the thing. I gave old Moses B minus. I'll come back to that. But this dude is a phenomenal athlete. Like, dude is fast, he's flexible, he's versatile. Like, he can drop back in coverage if he really needs to as an edge. Not saying that he will, but I'm saying that he could if it was just the only thing that was required. If it was like the last breath of air for the defensive line, like, he can do that if he wants to. He's young. He's 21 years old. He just got the right to drink, right? Again, like, he has a lot of room to develop, which is what I really like, because I like whenever you take a shot at a guy like this in the second round, a guy that is very young. And this was his first year playing edge. For his first 4 years of college, he played linebacker, but then they got a new head coach, and he was just like, no, I want to move you over to edge. And he absolutely killed it. But again, the negative here is that he is extremely raw. Like, he is almost as raw as an uncooked steak. Like, he could not be more raw. So here's the thing. Don't expect much from him from year one. Expect like a couple of flashes here and there, but don't expect him to just immediately come into the league and even be like a 7 to 10 sack guy. Like, expect him to come into the league, maybe get like 4 or 5 sacks in his first year, but then develop as time goes on. I 100% believe that Tracy Rocker can develop him, but here's the thing. It all comes down to that. If Rocker can develop him, this guy's going to be an absolute beast, and we're going to look back on this guy as an absolute steal. But if Rocker doesn't develop him correctly, then we look back on this pick, and it really is just not that good, right? It ends up not being a good pick at all, and people look back on it with just a little bit of upsetness about, like, why did we draft that guy whenever we could have stuck in round 2 and picked Luther Burden, right? But anywho, my floor for him is a worse Clowney, like a dude that just kind of, or how about this? I think that his perfect floor is like an Arden Key. Undisciplined, not really that great in technique, but he's got a little bit of fire in him, and he can become and he'll be like a rotational player, like a worse version of that, but still. And then his absolute ceiling to me is Micah Parsons minus the drama. I genuinely believe that he can be that good. That may be a little bit of a stretch for some people. I understand that because, like, again, Micah Parsons, really, really good. Really, really good defensive lineman. But I don't know, man. Like, he's got the stuff to do something like that. Overall, I gave it a B minus because overall it really is going to come down to development. and we're just going to have to see if he can be developed. Like, because if he can't be, this could end up being an F in a few years. I genuinely believe that. But anywho, round 3, pick 3 for the Titans, we have Kevin Winston Jr. This is a really strong pick. And honestly, I think that minus Cam Ward, this was this was the second best overall pick minus Cam Ward. Like, this dude has the potential to be one of the better safeties in the NFL. I genuinely believe that. Are you starting to see that pattern with these first 3 guys? Okay, high ceiling Cam Ward, high ceiling Oluwafemi, high ceiling Kevin Winston. Like, you look at all of these guys and you're just like, man, these guys have some really high ceilings. If they can develop, then we could be in a good place. So that's why I gave Kevin Winston an A. Not an A plus because, again, sometimes his instincts can be a little down. Sometimes he hugs a little bit too much to his other safety and coverage. But apart from that, he's like one of the best prospects that you could snag in the third. Think about this. He is a very consistent tackler, and he's a phenomenal leader. Again, that's a pattern with all 3 of these guys. I think all 3 of these first guys were captains at one point or another. And think about this. This dude was projected to be drafted in the first round. Think about that for a second. Like, this guy was projected as one of the top safeties in the draft, but 3 games into the year, he tore his ACL. Teams got a little bit scared about the short term, first off, and then they also got a little bit scared about not having another year of film on him. So they backed out and were just like, no, we're good. But again, the Titans drafted him, and I think that he is really, really solid. And no, this isn't like, and I want to clarify this, no, this is not like Caleb Farley, who was always injury prone in college, and for some reason John Robinson thought, oh yeah, this guy, he may have been injury prone in college, but he's gonna get that all together by the time he comes into the NFL. Newsflash, J-Rob, this is why he got fired. He's not gonna fix his injury proneness. He's not going to become more durable whenever he gets into the league. If anything, he's going to become less durable because he's playing against grown men, unlike what he was doing in college football. You can't just bet on that. But Kevin Winston is not that. It was a freak injury. He's not injury prone. And again, I think this is a really good player. This is the only one in the video where I have the floor and the ceiling as the same person. At my floor, I have Twilight Kevin Byers, as in like the one that would come in, sometimes make a big play every now and again, show the flash of, what he could have been or what he was before, but then he just does terrible for the rest of the game. And his ceiling is, well, prime Kevin Byers. I think that this guy, again, has some really good potential to become like one of the next faces of the Tennessee Titans. I got a really strong feeling about this dude. He has a great build, he has great character, and he has all of the talent for it. So that's why I give it an A+. Now, don't be shocked if he doesn't succeed that much in year 1. Because first off, he's going to be the third safety in the lineup, because the first 2 safeties are going to be Amani Hooker and Xavier Woods. I think that is very obvious. But then also, he is going to be coming off of the ACL tear, which is still something that you got to keep in mind. Like, usually it takes about year 2 for you to really just be back to your former old glory whenever you tear your ACL. We saw that with Harold Landry. Like, whenever he came back that first year, he really wasn't that great. Okay, hold on. He came back that first year. For the first half, he really wasn't that great, but then in the second half of the year, he really turned it on and became an 11-sack guy. Like, that is a perfect example of somebody coming off of an ACL tear. So again, overall, Kevin Winston, A. The first 3 rounds, really solid. Don't really have that many complaints about it, apart from how raw Oluwafemi is. But anywho, we move on to day 3. All right, we went through day 1 and day 2. Now we're on day 3. All right, and now we move on to my personal least favorite pick of the draft, Chime Dike. I gave this guy a C. And if you know me, a C is like really bad. Like, or not really bad, but it's not like great. Like, I'm not that harsh of a grader, so a C is like really low. Like, I don't think I've given out a C in my time, apart from maybe like Colton Dow, but he was a 7th round pick. So like, here's the thing though, we got to talk about some of the positives. He's really fast. Okay, his raw athletic score is absolutely amazing, and I think that's something that could really easily be used. Okay, he also is bigger for a slot receiver, and he also has really good stuff as a punt returner. But he does have hand problems, and he didn't have that much production in college. Like, most of these dudes that you see on this list, even on the back of this page right here, like, most of these dudes had really solid production in college, but he just really wasn't all that. Like, and I think that it's an agreed sentiment that out of this entire draft, that Chime is definitely the black sheep. But again, I still think that he does have potential to be solid. His floor, though, is Dez Fitzpatrick. Like, that should tell you, like, how meh of a pick I think this was. Like, he ends up just being Dez Fitzpatrick, a dude that really doesn't impress on film, but had, like, one really good game that had a bunch of people sold on the fact that he's going to be just absolutely awesome and all this stuff. But his ceiling is a better Mason Kinsey. And I mean that as in, like, Mason Kinsey, you know, the idea of Mason Kinsey is that he's like a really good punt returner. I was about to say a TFL. That's Titan for life, not tackle for loss. But he's like a Titan for life type of guy. And he also can sometimes work in the slot. But I think that Chime would work better in the slot, is why I think that that's his ceiling. But overall, C, don't really like this pick. If you replace this pick and draft Cam Skattebo right here, then I genuinely believe that this is the immediate reaction is immediately this is the best Titans draft in the past 3 years, which is saying a lot because, like, we had some really bad drafts before that, like from 2020 to 2022. But the 2023 and 2024 classes, minus like Levis, have been really solid. Like, you take a look and it's like, you know, you got Skronsky. He's going to be the left guard for this team for a while. You got Tajay Spears. He's been a really good running back too, and could be running back one once Tony Pollard's done here. And then, you know, then you have J.C. Latham. He's moving back to right tackle, but I still think that he is going to end up being really good as a right tackle. And then you have T'Vondre Sweat, who's going to be a demon on the defensive line, at least as a run stopper for the next 5 years. And who knows what happens after that, but I do think that he will end up being really, really solid for the next few years, as long as he's a Titan. And then, you know, then there were a couple of other rotational guys, like a Josh Wiley, or let me think. There was another dude in that last draft that Carthen had that I can't remember. What am I thinking? Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Like, he's going to be starting this year and is projected to be to have one of the bigger second-year leaps for the Titans. So, yeah, again, like, we've had some solid drafts, but this one barely loses to last year's draft because of the fact that, again, like, this Chime pick just really drags his draft down. I can't stress that enough. So overall, Dyke gets a C. Okay, Gunnar Helm, I gave this a B+. This could have been somewhere in the A's if it wasn't for the fact that, like, I don't feel like that tight end is one of our bigger needs, right? I feel like that he's a really solid pass catcher, and he's good at finding defensive holes. Sound familiar? Again, I find it really ironic. Cam Ward's gotten a lot of comparisons to Patrick Mahomes, and Gunnar Helm, from what has been said on his scouting reports, it reminds me of, well, one of Patrick Mahomes' really great teammates. But we will get to that we will get to that with the floor and the ceiling. But again, my biggest problem with it is that it's just not our biggest need. Like, I think that Gunnar Helm is a really, really good player. Like, I really like him, and he did really well at Kansas. At Texas, he was a really, really good tight end, but again, I think that Chig is also a really, really solid tight end. And Josh Wiley is another good tight end that you put into the rotation. And he's gigantic, so we can develop his pass block. So, not pass blocking. We can develop his run blocking to the point where he becomes a blocking tight end, so that way we have that in our system. But again, overall, I still think it's a really good pick. My floor for him is ironically Josh Wiley. I feel like that he is a lot like that with his pass catching tendencies and some other things. But again, Josh Wiley just is kind of whatever. And I do think that he could end up just being meh at the next level. But my ceiling for him all the way up is a poor man's Travis Kelce. Not obviously the level that Travis Kelce was at, where he was just absolutely phenomenal. But, outperformed some receivers. But, a guy that just is really consistently a good player that will find his way to get open and is a solid safety net for the quarterback. So again, that's why I give this a B+. Okay. Whew, man, y'all are about to witness some intense loving right here. Alec Eomanor. Don't know how to pronounce that last name, but I don't care. This is my favorite pick in the entire draft. I gave this an A+. I love this pick. Okay, first off, right before I recorded this episode, I found out another thing is that he has a really strong work ethic. So that's a positive of him because, he is a little bit raw as well, like Oluwafemi, but he's got a really strong work ethic. So it makes me really confident that he's going to get his problem settled by the time that year 2 or even year 3 come around. And he's going to end up being a really good receiver. He can definitely catch some balls contested, like footballs contested. He is a very, very just solid guy that whenever, you just chuck it up and just hope that somebody's down there, that's what he can bring to the table. He's a very high motor blocker. He is violent in the blocking game. This is a guy that Vrabel would have also loved. This is a guy that I feel like that Vrabel and Callahan could have been yeah, we like this guy. Again, just a really, really solid guy. But he does have some questionable catching technique, and, sometimes he has some bad balance, but he's still a really, really good receiver. I mean, y'all have heard about all the stuff about how he spanked Travis Hunter whenever they went head-to-head in college. But I don't think enough people know the stat line of that game. Because everybody looks at just that one catch they had and thought, oh, that was the only thing that he really did all game. He had that one really big catch. No. His stat line, he had 12 receptions. I may put it up on the screen. 12 receptions, 292 yards, maybe 294. I'm not too sure. And 3 touchdowns. That is demon-like. I have no idea how on earth he did that against Travis Hunter, but that is a perfect example of why I think that he is a really, really good receiver, and that is what he can be at his peak, okay? His floor, I have him at NWI. He could just end up being that, where he's just a guy that gets open, is like the Honda Civic, all reliable, and is our touchdown machine. But at my ceiling, I think he could be T. Higgins. I think he could even honestly be Can't Guard Mike. The one before his huge year where he was one of the best receivers of the 21st century. But I think that he could be what Mike was the years before that, whenever he was still really good, but he wasn't otherworldly like he was that one year. So again, overall, really love this pick. A+, my personal favorite pick of the draft. I'm holding y'all in a little longer than I was expecting to, so I'm gonna start, running these off a little bit more. Okay, so for Jackson Slater was our 5th round pick. I gave this an A-. He has strong hands, always finds work, but his biggest problem is that he had a lack of competition in college, which makes me think, is this guy really all of that, or is he just kind of benefiting off of the fact that he was an NFL talent playing against little boys at some points? Like, it depends on how you look at it, but I gave it an A-. His floor is Daniel Brunskill, but his ceiling is rookie Peter Skronsky to me. I think they ends up starting at right guard at some point. Like, I think that he learns a year under Zeitler. Zeitler rides off into the sunset, and then he's right in there at right guard. But I still think that he could be really, really solid. Rookie Skronsky, again, was a really, really good player. He wasn't, like, amazing. Like, he wasn't some type of, like, absolute beast like he ended up being the second half of this year. But he was really, really solid. So I would be completely fine with that. Marcus Harris, probably my second least favorite pick. Cornerback out of Cal, I gave him a C+. He has good makeup speed. Like whenever he gets behind or beat, he can catch back up to either make the tackle after getting burnt, or maybe even get back into the play to try and bat the ball down. He has really good change of direction, but again, inconsistent location of ball. He has a chance to potentially start this year with the whole L'Jarius Sneed controversy happening. Even though I do think that Darrell Baker will end up starting, which is what I think is his floor. Like, rotational guy that can start every now and again whenever he really needs to, but he's not going to be like one of your consistent starters. And his ceiling is Jarvis Brownlee Jr., like a really, really solid corner that provides a lot for you. All right, overall, C+ on that. Okay, last pick, Kalel Mullings, or Superman Mullings. I gave him a B. He has great production as a running back, too, for like 150 carries, 900 yards, and I forgot how many touchdowns, but still really, really solid at that. He had good ball protection, he didn't fumble that much, and he was a great special teams player, which is something that we have been really needing, especially considering the fact that one of the dudes that that really helped in that turnaround of the special teams unit, we cut for some reason. I don't understand that, but that's not my decision. But he does have average vision. I think that his floor is another fellow Michigan running back in Hassan Haskins. I think that he is something like that, most likely. Like, he's not really a running back more than he is a gunner that it gets down the field. Like, I think he has potential to be an absolute demon on special teams. So, yeah. But my ceiling is all the way up at Tyjae Spears, like right now. Really good running back, too, that sometimes has the potential to be a running back one, but overall just kind of stays in the running back 2 spot. So, overall, I give this draft an A-. Amazing across the board by Borgonzi. It's just that I think that the Chime Dyke and the Marcus Harris pick kind of drag this one down. If you replace Dyke with Scadaboo, and you replace Marcus Harris with another cornerback like Kobe Bryant, I know that he got undrafted, but like, he was still really good in college. Like, if you replace those two with just someone a little bit better, I think that this ends up being the best Titans draft that we've had in the Brian Callahan era so far, with year 2 in the books. So anyway, that's it for today's episode. Tell me what you think. What do you think of these draft picks? What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? Let me know in the comments section. I have Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok all under the Titans Rundown if you want to go check those out. And overall, really excited for the season to start. I think that we end up not being that great, but I do think that we end up being a fun team that really isn't that great. So anyway, that's going to do it all for me. This has been a rundown of your Tennessee Titans. I love y'all, and tighten up.